Oh, this is that guy.
JC Chazet.
Is that JC? He's my favorite, I think.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's got a very chiseled jaw.
He kind of looks like a handsome Jay Baruchel.
Oh my god! I need to write that down. I need to write that down everywhere in my life.
We have it on recording.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's my official opinion of JC Chazet.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind, 10 years after the Earth-Minbari War. The Babylon Project was a dream given form. Its goal, to prevent another war by creating a place where humans and aliens could work out their differences peacefully. It's a port of call, home away from home for diplomats, hustlers, entrepreneurs, and wanderers. Humans and aliens wrapped in 2,500,000 tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. It can be a dangerous place, but it's our last best hope for peace. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations. The year is 2258. The name of the place is Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the best case of testosterone that I've ever seen. Good job. Testosterone poisoning, sorry, I got the line wrong.
It's okay. I'm the best case. I got these. I'm a man.
What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's me. Hey, I got a question for you, dude.
Okay, what is it?
When you're putting on your pants,
Sure.
your trousers,
Oh yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
do you zip and then fasten, or fasten and then zip?
I'll never tell you that. 5 minutes later, zip then fasten. Me too. What?
Well, they actually are both fasten and zip.
Fasten and zip. Sorry.
If you look at the original script.
Was that this episode?
No, it's the next one, but
Damn, you fucked up.
I just thought we kind of could pull from anything in this.
No, it's absolutely not allowed.
Seems like you're really trying to avoid answering the question.
I don't understand the question. What do they mean zipper then fasten? Like the button? Like when you put your pants on.
You're, hold on.
Okay.
Now you're revealing your patrician benefits that you have someone to put your pants on you for you.
Yeah, don't you have a small person named, never mind, let's take this bit nowhere. Let's take it into the trash. I button and then zipper.
Hey, fasten and then zip, just like them and just like me.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. Why would you zip and then fasten? That doesn't
Well,
make any sense.
hold on.
If you have tight pants, maybe zipper then fasten.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. If it's a tight pant, I zip and then fasten.
Yeah, I get that. But I don't ever wear tight pants because I'm fucking super slim. I'm the fat one on the podcast, guys. Hey, speaking of the podcast, it's Chatzylon 5. No, it's just we're Mario and Luigi. It's fine.
Come on. Why does anyone have to be the fat one?
We can all be the fat one.
Yeah, come on, dude.
Come on, I'll be Garfield. You can be
No. How about you're the lasagna?
Yep.
And I'm the lasagna. And, as
the
Carl
listener's
Sagan,
Garfield.
As Carl Sagan once said, we're all just made of lasagna stuff.
Is that a real Carl Sagan quote?
No, he said we're made of star stuff.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah.
He said that, and we also say things. I can't segue on Chatzylon 5. It's a Babylon 5 podcast. We watch 2 episodes a week. It's very nice. I will turn this car around if we don't get it together. This week, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for yelling. This week, we watched Season 1, Episode 19, A Voice in the Wilderness Part 2, as well as Season 1, Episode 20, Babylon Squared. First up is A Voice in the Wilderness Part 2, which was written by J. Michael Straczynski, directed by Janet Greek. It aired August 3rd of 94, and it takes place in June of 2258. Magellan, what happened in Part 2 of this two-parter?
In this episode, the situation heats up when an Earth Force heavy cruiser arrives to protect Earth's interests, and the fusion reactors on Epsilon 3 start going out of control. They may blow up the planet and Babylon 5. Alan, what did you think of Voice in the Wilderness Part 2?
I guess I'll start by saying I think I was a little disappointed because it felt like part 1 was setting up a big buildup of something huge happening, and while technically something huge did happen, I didn't find the Epsilon 3 plotline itself that interesting. Because, Delenn finds out that there are certain people that follow the third rule of sentient life, and that those are the people who are destined to replace the old man in Epsilon 3. It turns out it's her friend because he's the guy on the show who we know doesn't come back. So, that was easy.
Right.
The stuff I found really interesting was the back and forth between Sinclair and the Earth Force guy, Pierce.
Yeah, I agree.
I just really love when people from Earth Force are, getting in the whole Babylon 5 steez and trying to make things happen and being obnoxious and using their authority to force things to happen. And then Sinclair has to work against that and push back on these systems. I think that's where Babylon 5 is often at its sharpest and at its most biting in terms of commentary of
that's certainly, I think, when Sinclair is most engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and I also like Sinclair as a co-pilot and as a person who's also on the ship with his crewmates, but as a captain, it's just, and when he's commanding people, it's yeah, whatever. He's doing the Star Trek thing, but when he's fighting back against authority, it's very good.
I think when he's just sort of competent or effective because he's the white guy who's the main character, it's boring. But when he is making decisions or when he's trying to balance, I'm a human, but also I'm the commander of this diplomatic space station. So does that outrank my sort of special affinity? I think that's a genuine thing that he's wrestling with. It's worth watching.
Right. And in this episode, we're watching him not only reject that authority, but try to parlay with it. Because he's not no, screw you, go away. Pierce is no, we're here, we came, we are the we talked last week about what is the thing that's gonna come through the jumpgate. But Garibaldi is what the hell?
What the hell? Yeah.
And it's a cruiser. It's the cops. It's the higher up cops basically being hey, mother truckers, we're here. We need to help you fight this guy. They are the bad guys. We have created an other. If we work together, we can fight them. I talked last time on my Chatzylon about Subterfuge. By the way, shout outs to me for winning that game of Subterfuge. It was a nightmare, and I regret everything. I did win though. But in Subterfuge, a big way that you win is creating an enemy. Even though we're all equals here, the important thing is that you know that I'm working with you, and that guy hates you.
Right. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly. So that's what Pierce is doing in this episode. That's what I guess Earth Force is doing via him. Is trying to tell Sinclair those aliens, whatever the hell they are on Epsilon 3, are evil. We don't know what they're gonna do. They clearly have weapons. Every time you guys try to come close, they shoot you down. There's no way they're good. If we work together, we can take them out. Why won't you just let me do that? And he's no, but we don't know anything. What makes Sinclair have the sort of higher ground morally here is he's not gonna fire without asking questions first.
Right. Right.
It clearly comes from a heartbroken place in the end when he's I guess we have to fire,
And he is rejecting the fundamental notion that he should be trying to make sure Earth gets things before anybody else.
Right.
Which is what's central to what he's doing. He wants to make sure that nobody gets the fancy, crazy technology that's on the planet before anybody else.
Right, a good the big motivation for Pierce and the Earth Force early on is everyone else. If you don't take it, everyone else on Babylon 5, all the other races are going to take the stuff there, and we kind of jokingly see that Londo wants to do that, and at first it seems that's the reason Londo wants to go down there is he's no, if you guys don't take it, I'm taking it. That doesn't seem fair that you guys just get to hoard these resources. So there's a little bit of validity to that. Yeah, everyone else wants power. But that doesn't mean that we just give it up and let somebody take it. And that doesn't mean that we hoard it. Neither of those things is going to get us anywhere that's not productive.
Right.
There is a decent amount of corny political commentary in this episode that I found kind of funny. There's the Garibaldi scene where he is sitting in the Zocalo with basically like cartoon, like hard right Republicans.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I'm glad the bad guys are dying. They're spending our tax money on all this stuff. I hope that they kill all
people who live on Mars.
or on the Mars riots. Like that they deserve. That's what they get. And Garibaldi tries to be kind of like understanding, and he's like, well, they're all humans. And they're like, no, but they're from Mars and they don't call themselves humans. They call themselves Martians. So that's stupid. They're different from us. And at first, he's fine with it, and then he walks away, and then he does his little magic trick where he pushes the guy's face into the thing because Garibaldi is unhinged.
Yeah, he slams his head into the bar over and over again. It's like this, this crazy cop fantasy that like the cops are gonna come and beat up the racists for us.
Yeah, God, that's this is the future liberals want. Is the good cops are the ones that beat up the racists?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nah. The problem is like all that stuff is funny because I can distance myself from it, but they are still kind of putting their hands in the mud of like current problems that we deal with.
That said, I did appreciate that then Sinclair goes to Garibaldi and says, Mike, you cannot do that. You cannot beat people up like that. Now, listen, there are no consequences for what you did.
Of course not.
But I need you sharp, buddy. You're my little guy. You're my special guy, okay?
Who's gonna be my number 2, buddy? Come on. And just like continuing it, just like doubling down on this like authority of like certain forms of authority are bad. Look at how authority can corrupt. We get the umpteenth scene. We could honestly make this into like a drinking game now, where Sinclair is like, "Hey, Senator, can I get like any help out here? This Pierce guy is like really mean." Right. And they're like, "Dude, I don't know. No is what I'm saying. Is no, you can't have help." And it's like, guy, honestly, why does he even ask anymore? He asks different people every time. But
sometimes it's the same guy.
Yeah, but it's like the same like senator, and it's like either his reasoning is either it's an election year, or I don't control Earth Force, or I don't like have the power to help you. It's out of my hands, etc. And it's just like really, really solidifying that not only is the Earth government dealing with a lot right now, but they just aren't capable to help.
Completely ineffectual.
They're ineffectual and essentially useless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Sinclair is very useful in this episode because my favorite like play of his is when Pierce is saying like, "How did you guys get your ships down on the planet at first?" And then Sinclair's like, "Yeah, duh, we had a jamming device." He's like, "Wait, you have a jamming device? Can we get that?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, it's in repair right now, so like not now, but like maybe when we're done with it." And he's like, "All right, well, definitely text me when you get it out." And he's like, "Yeah, for sure, dude, peace." And then Ivanova's like, "Hey, we don't have a jamming device." He's like, No. That's not a real thing. We don't have that."
Yeah.
But it bought us some time. Like, yeah, good job.
Right. And then Pierce is like, "I'm going down there." And Sinclair says, "I'll shoot you. I'll shoot
do it.
Don't think I won't. I'm crazy. I got nothing to lose."
Yeah, his like kind of bleak argument of like, if I go against you, my whole career is ruined and I'm taken off of Babylon 5. If I don't go against you, we all die. So
yeah, so
like a man with nothing, a person pushed into a corner with no other option will go guns out.
And like completely unpredictable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it progresses. There's like a lot of little one-off scenes where they're talking about like the prospect of what happens if this planet blows up, and really reminding us that like Epsilon 3 is important to the show of Babylon 5.
Is it though?
In this moment, it is.
Is
like
it though?
The fate of Epsilon 3? Because if it blows up, then they're gone.
I guess, man. I don't know. By the end of this 2-parter, we'd completely return to the status quo.
True, but I mean, like the tension from this episode becomes, what is the fate of Epsilon 3?
It just probably is going to sit there forever with its big laser.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it becomes a big deal.
I don't. No. I'm not. I think we're misunderstanding each other. I'm not saying like it is a big deal in the grand context of the show. I'm saying in this episode, the conflict concerns whether or not Epsilon 3 is going to blow up or stay dormant forever.
Sure.
And because the answer is stay dormant forever, they basically confirm like you're never going to have to worry about Epsilon 3 again. We figured this plot out.
I see. Okay.
We wiped our hands of it.
Agreed.
But they're because like there are moments where Sinclair and Garibaldi are like, what do we do? Like, how do we evacuate people? What is the speed in which we can evacuate people out of here? Do we have enough ships to do that? Are people gonna want to do that? Like, we're on a sinking ship basically. If this doesn't work out, we hope it does. But like, Earth government's gonna ruin everything because that's what they always do, and then they have to really like address that stuff. And I found that there's like a lot of emotion to these conversations that I really enjoyed. I think when the stakes are higher on this show, they get more like it obviously makes things more exciting, but it also gets better performances out of people. Sinclair telling Garibaldi, like, if we all have to evacuate and Ivanova wants to stay back, I want you to make her leave because she has her entire career ahead of her. Is like really like a great moment of Sinclair appreciating Ivanova and what she does for the ship, but it's also him being like, Garibaldi, you don't got much going on, bud. You're like me. We're just we're just
like,
saddled
we're just
men.
a bunch of old dudes who deserve to die. And Garibaldi's like, yeah, you're right.
It do be like that. Like they're just agreeing. Like, yeah, I guess we don't have anything to do. Like, we'd love to stop the ship from blowing up, but like, she has a job.
It's also this continued paternalism that Sinclair is expressing towards Ivanova, which I guess makes sense if he's a father figure.
Right.
Of like, now you know Ivanova, she's not going to want to do a certain thing, but we all know what's best for her.
We have to force her to do it because she'll never do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on one hand, it reads as like a very understanding relationship. Then on the other one, it's like you're assuming the worst of her every time because you're being parentalist. Exactly.
Right.
And so I think the last like third act turn that really worked for me was this is honestly, I'm looking at all my notes, like this is a pretty solid fucking episode.
It's all right.
Overall.
I wasn't blown away.
No, it doesn't blow the mind in any way. It's just like these are some good performances and it progresses. It's paced pretty well.
Yeah.
The aliens on the planet steal language data. There's like a really cool scene where the people on the computer team are like, they're stealing data, specifically language data. And then
don't call it cool. It was, come on. They like shoot a beam and then Sinclair's like, is everyone all right?
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
But
they just like put a flashlight in our face for a bit.
They stole Google Translate.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what's up, shitlords? It's us. You have 10 hours to leave. And then Pierce, like, honestly, cool moment from Pierce. Mm-hmm. He's like, no. You don't give me 10 hours. I give you 9 hours to go away.
Yeah.
Like, what is this, like, one-upsmanship against this, like, indigenous third party? Like, you guys are on the planet. Mm-hmm. I don't care that you have guns. We have bigger guns.
I thought Pierce, that performance was great. I thought this alien guy who is the bad guy was really uninspiring.
It's super monotone. It kind of
I
seems
wonder
like
if
maybe
it's like the makeup makes it hard to
constricting.
emote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or something. I don't know.
There is it's then it's also like maybe because they just stole language for the first time, they like don't know how to do English.
Right. Yeah, he's trying to play that kind of faltering speech thing, which makes sense. It's a choice.
But yeah, because of that play, that's where we get the Ivanova line of this is the worst case of testosterone poisoning I've ever seen, which is just good. And then we kind of like we get this really exciting last minute action scene where Londo is like, "All right, guys, I'm going onto the planet," and they're like, "You can't." Like, I know you're old and you love thinking about like how you're gonna go out. Like that's like Londo's whole deal is thinking about how he's gonna die. But like, can we like take people with you, dude? Don't just go and die. And he's like, all right, fine. So it ends up being him, the old man, and Delenn. Drawl is the old man's name. I keep calling him. It's him, Drawl, Delenn, and then the old man that used to work that used to be in the planet, in the machine. They all go down, and I really like. I always used to talk about how like on Farscape when they'd go on planets, the budget always seemed like it got really bad, but I still appreciated it because it was cool to see planets. Sure. That was kind of how I felt here. Where it was like, this is all foam, like lava planet nonsense, but I like seeing them on planets. It's just cool.
Yeah.
Nothing much to the planet stuff other than they get there and finally Drawl says what the third principle of life is, of sentient life is, which is like the capacity for self-sacrifice and the desire for self-sacrifice. So, like, of course, Londo has it because he is ready to die for people at a moment's notice. Of course, Sinclair has it because that's what it means to be a captain in a lot of ways. And then, of course, Drawl has it because, as he talked about last time we saw him, the Minbari, especially the old Minbari, are so burnt out by no longer having a war, and they feel so unmotivated that, like, any of them would immediately take an opportunity like this to do a heroic sacrifice.
Right.
Like, you dangle that in front of them and they'll jump at it immediately. So he's like, hell yeah, I'll throw my body into this. Even though I have this attachment to Delenn, even though I am a, like, elder in my society, like, I'm ready to hook me up to this machine and stuff.
Yeah, I just didn't really feel much when it happened to him because clearly from the moment that he arrived, he was constructed to die.
Exactly.
As a character. And there's the moment where he's like, it's got to be me or whatever. And Garibaldi's like, no, there's got to be another way. And then he gives this whole speech. And Garibaldi doesn't respond. We just keep cutting to like little shots of Garibaldi's mouth hanging slightly open.
Yeah.
And then nobody responds to this huge soliloquy. And then we cut to another scene. It's like, okay, I guess we don't really care too much about that guy.
Yeah. It robs this episode of any real, like, meaning or depth because, like you said, Drawl goes into the machine, the heart of the machine. Mm-hmm. He hooks himself up. The old man says, like, hey, I'll teach him, which that was like another good performance. I think that the former old guy is like, plays this really good, like, I'm basically on my last rope and I only have long life because I was in that machine. He's going to have like, he's a man of wonder and mystery, and he's going to get to see all the answers of the universe in that machine. That's going to be awesome for him, and I'm going to help him through it.
Right.
Very, like, weirdly touching for characters who we don't see. And I think we got a comment somewhere about how with characters that don't matter like this, we're always like, why do we get, like, whole side plots about, like, people who we're never going to see again? Yeah. And the answer is you can have people die and have people have entire arcs in one episode without having to, like, fuck up the canon. Like, you can have Drawl and the old man talk about, like, seeing the extent of the universe and fulfilling your purpose in life because they can both die and it doesn't matter.
Fair. That's fair.
But it, again, just doesn't feel that exciting because then Pierce is like, I'm sorry, I was a horrible nightmare human and I'll leave, I guess. And the government still definitely hates you and is probably going to come to bite you in the ass in, like, 2 more episodes, but, like, I'm sorry. He leaves. Drawl's on the planet. The planet's fine. Nobody dies. Everyone's fine. And then not only that, but hey, remember last week when Garibaldi spent the whole time wondering if Lise was alive? She's alive.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
she's fine. She's married.
She's married.
Pregnant.
Married and having a kid with a dude named Franz, which is good.
Yeah, which is just like a detail.
Yeah, someone wrote that on a script and said, let's put that in there. Sure, I like the part where he doesn't show that he's gutted by that.
Yeah, he just rolls with it. Okay.
Yeah, all right, cool. That's a relatable moment. Your ex tells you, like, hey, I'm seeing someone. And also I'm happy. But it's, like, not that relatable for us because she's like, also, I'm, like, married to him and we're having a kid. And you're like, oh.
I think it's just because, like, I don't think he really cares about her. I think to Garibaldi, Lise represents the things that he could have done better, you know, and like a road not taken. But I don't know that he really cares about her all that much.
He cared about the idea of her. He cared about, like, the potential to, like, she was gonna theoretically be someone that could help him change, and like move on past that struggle of his life. But once he figured out that she's alive, it's like, well, phew, I'm glad. But this wasn't gonna work. This is, like, confirming to me crystal clear that this was never gonna work. All right, great, bye. Like, it's cathartic for him in a way. I don't have many stray notes, Majon. Do you?
Thought I had something in my brain, but I can't remember what it was. So no.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
I have a couple small things, actually, like the
okay.
them saying we're used to hope. Ivanova says we're used to hopeless situations, which is like you forget how much of Babylon 5 is
we
just
know
sad.
we're on a show.
Yeah, we know we're on a TV show. She can say lines like that, and then she can also say when Londo's like, "What would happen? What would happen, Ivanova, if you?"
You've been working on that one, huh?
I haven't. I'll. The secret is to like put all of your air in one cheek and then try talking. How are you doing, Magellan? It's not just a Russian accent. It's like a protruded European accent. But he's like, "What would happen, Ivanova, if we like took the thing off of the planet?" And she's like, "Boom, boom, boom, boom. Have a nice day." Like, she always gets these silly lines. And then finally, my note about, I think it's when he's in the Zocalo, or maybe, no, it's when he's in his quarters. Garibaldi at one point is just eating a whole pizza, and he leaves the crust. Oh, yeah, this is the scene where he's in his quarters, and Sinclair comes in, and he's like, "Hey, if we evacuate and Ivanova wants to stay back, all that stuff." He's just sitting there eating a pizza. There's pizza on Babylon 5. It looks like regular ass pizza. It's just like it's in a box and everything. I love it. But maybe Garibaldi is also the kind of guy who, like, even though they could have any food, he's like, I still want, like...
Yeah, of course he's going to want to slice his za.
Exactly. Or a large za, in fact.
Yeah. I liked the scene where Garibaldi's kind of hanging. I think we can start to categorize Babylon 5 endings, because one of the categories of Babylon 5 endings is one character is in a secluded space. Second character arrives. Oh, you also know about this secret secluded space. First character. Yeah, like I like to come here and think. And then they say the main takeaways of their plots to each other.
Right. And
that structure has easily happened 3 or 4 times in this show. If not more. Anyway, right. That scene, so there's that scene where Garibaldi's looking at the stars and Delenn comes in, and then they talk through just what happened to them in that episode. And Garibaldi's like muttering under his breath. He's like, "Franz, what's going on with that?" And it was kind of cheesy, but then Delenn goes, "Goodbye, old friend," to Garibaldi, except she's actually saying goodbye to that old Garibaldi who she left.
The former Garibaldi.
Yeah, and she starts crying and stuff. Well-delivered line by Delenn that is itself kind of a silly line.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of that where it's just like these actors are kind of too good for the script sometimes.
Delenn is so good.
She's very good. Mira Furlan. Just a good actress. It's true.
What's her name?
Mira Furlan.
Mira Furlan. Okay.
Yeah. She's on Lost. She's Danielle Rousseau.
Oh.
My last note is actually from the JMS Speak section of the Lurker's Guide. Mm-hmm. This is regarding, I guess, a problem that people had at the time about, like, why didn't you just put Ivanova and Sinclair on the planet and, like, have them fight or, like, have them do the talking? And he says here we get into a contradiction. Ivanova and Sinclair down on the planet would be mainly more run and jump. Drawl talking about his... Drawl talking about his feelings. Delenn showing that she's upset that her friend is going away and will never be seen again. Their friendship, their obvious friendship, that to me is characterization. And not throwaway characterization, but important down the road characterization. But hey, what do I know? So he's like, you know, we're always talking about how he's planting seeds for stuff, but it's just like, yeah, I would rather have people you don't know about talk about like real feelings than have people you do know about with like harmless, consequence-free like action scenes. That's why we don't get that stuff. So I think that's cool. So that's what I have. That's what we have. Let's quickly read some emails and then we can take it into segment 2, episode 2.
Do it.
The big one. Wow, weird. Season 1, episode 20 is called The Big One. That's such a weird name for an episode. We have 2 emails this week. Perfect. One's a short one, one's a Dan one.
Great.
Do you want to read the first one first?
All right. Our first email this week comes from Paul, who says, "Hello from the UK. Wow. Just discovered this pod." I know. We're multi-continental. Just discovered this pod at the weekend, or over the weekend, and listened all the way through to the latest episode. Thank you, Paul. We love that when people start at the beginning and then zoom to catch up with us.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the show while in university with a friend who had already seen it on TV, on DVD back in the early 2000s. It's great that you youngins, thank you, are discovering this show. It's a show I always recommend to people but don't seem to get much take-up, which is a great shame. Quick point with regards to the writing. JMS takes up more and more of the writing responsibilities as the show goes on. 15 out of Season 2's 22 episodes are written by him, and all of Season 3's episodes are written by him, which was a pretty extraordinary feat. This means that the writing becomes tonally much more consistent, and Season 3 is probably most fans' favorite season. That's very good to know. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Paul, and I look forward to future podcasts. If you're enjoying it so far, you should love the rest of the show. I was skeptical about it until the next few episodes, Babylon Squared and Chrysalis in particular. After that, I was hooked. Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. It really does feel like we're in a sea shift of like the show has finally started to resemble what it wants to be. Our next email is from Dan. Thank you, Dan, as always. He says, in the episode Legacies, we see one of the minor effects of showing episodes out of the intended order. The magical stun device that Delenn uses is the Triluminary, a device that she doesn't actually obtain until Babylon Squared. And also some of the events of Babylon Squared completely recolor that great scene in Legacies when Delenn dresses down Naroon.
Yes.
We will talk
We'll
about
talk about
it.
that, yeah.
We have to. With Elisa Belden giving Sinclair the word chrysalis. This is good. The only response from him would have been to look dead into the camera and respond, "Oh, you mean like the title for the last episode of the season?" I think this is a relic from a more innocent time when people needed winks and nudges to be assured that things were going places. It's possibly just nostalgia, but I still have a soft spot for these sort of corny, like, foreshadowing moments.
Sure.
Alan's read on the Delenn and Drawl relationship is an interesting one. Whatever their relationship is, it seems to be a close one, and we've certainly seen multiple examples in the show of student-teacher relationships that became romantic. I don't know if you've noticed it, but the Minbari aren't a particularly touchy people. They don't do a lot of physical contact, but Delenn and Drawl touch all the time. So maybe Drawl is like family or something else, but they definitely have a relationship where they care deeply for one another. I liked reading that because I wasn't like, oh shit, when Drawl comes back, it's going to be a big deal. It's like, no. When Drawl dies or when Drawl goes into the machine, that's a big deal, period. That's why it's a big deal, is because they had a very, like, for their race, a pretty, like, personal relationship. He mentions, by these episodes now, we've crossed a minor turning point in the Babylon 5 fandom. We have officially, albeit subtly, been introduced to the character of David Corwin, who is a tech in CNC. Now that if you can look up David Corwin Babylon 5, Magellan, you'll see many pictures of him. We've seen him. He's like one of the techs on the ship, and once you recognize him, you're going to notice him a lot. Especially because Dan says, I like to think of him as Babylon 5's Braca, who quietly steals every scene that he's in. That's unfair because Braca's like the best character in television.
Yeah, ain't nothing quiet about my sexy lad.
My real life boyfriend.
Okay.
You're like, oh, that blonde
seen
man.
This guy before.
Yeah, he's a dude. And then he basically reiterates what Paul said, which is if you like the episodes written by JMS, it's worth noting the series becomes more serialized, and then pretty much repeats exactly what Paul said.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm really surprised that there's like this big of a show and it got entirely, after a certain point, was entirely written by one person.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
Like how that doesn't, you don't get that in TV like ever, even with the best shows, the most like auteur crafted shows of all time.
Like
you
maybe
have like
Sorkin. It happens with Sorkin.
Right. Well, but Sorkin's is clearly an example of, and we talked about this on the chats room, but like he clearly didn't just write the episode by himself. He had a writer's team, but he kept writing credits.
Just, like taking credit, yeah.
Yeah, this seems more like a thing where it's like, no, literally, like JMS like wrote scripts, and then those scripts became episodes, and he didn't have a lot of help. Maybe, I don't know exactly how it is. But yeah, thank you. Oh, we love those emails. If you want to send us an email, you can do so by sending it to chatspod@gmail.com. We'll be right back after a brief musical break to discuss Babylon Squared.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 1, Episode 20 of Babylon 5, entitled Babylon Squared. It was written by J. Michael Straczynski, directed by Jim Johnston. It aired August 10th, 1994, and it takes place on Tuesday, July 12th and Wednesday, July 13th of 2258. Alan, what happened in Babylon Squared?
How long did it take you to get that Babylon Squared means Babylon 4, listener? It took me about 15 minutes into the episode. In this episode, Babylon 4 reappears at the same place it disappeared 4 years earlier, and Sinclair and Garibaldi lead an expedition to evacuate its crew. Meanwhile, Delenn is summoned by the Grey Council. They inform her that they have selected a new leader. Her. Directed by Spike Jonze. Shit.
Dun, dun.
So this is, we talk about like, when's the crunch? When's the plot? Come on, guys. When's the episode where shit happens? And they said, hey, hello? Viewer? Here's your shit. What if Delenn had like a whole emotional arc in the span of like 20 minutes of the episode in this corner, and then in the other corner we not only answered a major question of the show, but set up a plot device that we're going to use for the rest of the show in a really weird, sort of subversive way, and it's really bizarre and doesn't make a lot of sense, but like I promise you you'll get all this in the future. How did you feel about Babylon Squared, Mr. Magoo?
I thought that it was cheesy as hell the whole time, and then the ending happened, and then I changed my mind.
The Delenn getting the Triforce ending?
Well, everything with Delenn was great.
Yeah.
The stuff with like, oh, it's this old space station where for some reason this bald goatee man has a green suit and it looks way worse. And then it's 28 minutes in and they're like, by the way, this guy's here. And it's one of the stars of the defunct sitcom Cavemen. It's Nick Kroll in his makeup.
That was Nick Kroll?
He was on that show, my friend.
Oh, no.
Yes. Can I read you the cast of Cavemen?
Yes, you can. Go for it.
Okay. So, for those of you who don't remember.
And why would you?
Of course. Well, you had those Geico Cavemen commercials. It's like so easy a caveman could do it. And then the joke was like those cavemen are kind of offended that they're being portrayed as dumb.
Uh-huh.
And so then they made a show out of that.
Great.
Starring 3 cavemen. Those 3 cavemen were played by Bill English, who I think this was his main thing that he did.
He was on Person of Interest, but he wasn't like, I don't think he was a main guy.
Sam Huntington, who you may remember also from Being Human as the werewolf guy.
Oh shit. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Nick Kroll, who played Nick Hedge, one of the cavemen.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
It's really, hold on. It's just really weird realizing that that's 2007. Like
2007, 11 years ago, yes.
Also, the IMDb page for Cavemen says 2007 to, like, as if, like, it could come back any minute. They never said it was canceled, so, like, we're still holding out for the Cavemen Season 2. And I'm holding out, damn it. I'm holding out.
That show is in the same folder in my mind as other... I was sort of coming to awareness of what was normal around that time in my life.
Yeah, like Back to You with Kelsey Grammer.
Right. But like, I'm thinking Back to You is actually, it had some redeeming qualities, and it lasted more than a season, I think, right?
Did it? Okay.
Lasted a couple seasons. Well, let's just check.
Wow. Googling is the death of podcast, Magellan.
There's a Back to You music video by Selena Gomez, which is not what I meant.
No, it's so 2007 to 2008.
2007, 2008. Oh, okay. So it was just one season.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought of it as longer. So Back to You's in there, and also the Pamela Anderson sitcom Stacked.
Stacked! Oh, God. Was Josh Gad in both of those things?
Josh Gad?
Yeah. I know he was in Back to You.
In Stacked? Hold on.
Wait, who was like the guy in Stacked? Shush. Brian Solaro, who's basically a slightly older Josh Gad.
Gad. Oh boy, Christopher Lloyd was in Stacked.
Yep. Feel that. So,
oh no.
yeah. This is what people want. They want to hear us talk about TV. So.
Oh my god.
I want to mention, speaking of sitcoms, dude, this episode starts with a very sitcom scene. I was like, this is another, like, JMS wrote this and it's funny and it's in character, but, like, it's so strange. Where Sinclair is like, I'm a morning person because the Jesuits that I lived with would pray at 6 a.m. and they would pray devoutly, and then we would have breakfast, and then it was 8 a.m. and we go for a walk, and Ivanova's just like falling asleep because she's making more jokes about how she's like Garfield and I'm not a morning person and likes lasagna and hates Odie for some reason. She falls asleep at the breakfast table, like dozes off, and then Garibaldi and Sinclair like replace their like breakfast with empty plates, and then they bring their plates back and they're like, oh, all right, now that it's almost 8 a.m. I guess we should go to work. And she's like, oh, I missed breakfast. She runs outside and then she's like, Garibaldi. It's very sitcom. It's in an episode that's supposed to like be the crunchy sci-fi weird like time travel-y stuff. Start with this is like very different, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think it's good in an ensemble show to have moments that show that the characters like each other.
Yeah.
I think a lot of shows forget to do that, but it goes a long way to getting the audience to like the characters. It wasn't the funniest scene in the world.
No.
But it's fun enough that I think it was good.
It does what it's trying to do.
And it like gives us a side of Garibaldi where we don't have to be worried about how he's like this, fascist super cop. He's just kind of a fuckboy.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like
maybe a little more fun to watch.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
After they do this, there is an astronaut who's leaving Babylon 5, and he sees a bright light, and he's like, "Oh no!" and he dies, and that's the cold open, right? Mm-hmm. And he comes back, and he's like bones. He's all bones.
He's actually not all bones. He's all normal skin.
But he's dead. On the inside, he's all
bad organs.
Yeah. Yes, because he aged like ×3 in the span of like 2 seconds. But he had time to etch the phrase B4 into his seatbelt.
Yeah, which immediately they were all like, huh,
Babylon 4. And I was like, yo, what if it was before?
No. Well, yeah, what if it was before something?
Yeah, and he just missed the second half of it. Why didn't we think about that?
Yeah, or he was playing Battleship or Bingo or something.
With aliens, and he just took his first turn and then died.
Yeah.
It's possible. And... Oh, by the way, this is as good a time as any to mention this. After we kind of like explain what's going on and we're like, all right, we got to figure out Babylon 4, they do this thing that I think they did this last week, where there's like interstitial breaks on Babylon 5 now. Like there's like a 5-second shot that's like end of a scene and it goes like dun dun dun, and it's like the Babylon 5 logo. I think it's a commercial cut.
Yeah, it's commercial cuts, I think.
But we didn't used to get like an animation there. It used to just be a fade to black. Whereas now we get a little like animation.
Well, maybe that's like the animation coming back from the commercial.
Oh, maybe, and we were just not getting it before. Like maybe it was there, but we weren't seeing it or something.
I don't know.
There's a lot of
I'll
possibilities.
have to keep my eye out.
Yeah. I feel like I noticed it last week but didn't mention it. That's why I'm like looking at my notes.
Yeah.
It's really funny though. This is in character though. Like they all accept that Babylon 4 being back is like. Yeah, it's weird, but like it's here, and like we're not going to ignore it or doubt that it exists.
Right. Well, they doubted it first. Garibaldi's like, that's impossible. And then as soon as they see it, he goes, yep, that's Babylon 4.
100%. There it is. Found it.
All right, here we go.
Time for some nonsense.
Yeah, they take it in stride.
Which you have to do in a sci-fi story. Like in that universe, you have to take stuff like this. In stride.
Just for narrative efficiency, we don't really want to watch the characters doubt what's going on.
Yeah, this can't be Babylon 4. No, come on, like it is what it is. We get on there, and at first they run into a guy who's trying to get away, and then the main boss, the guy who called them and was like, "We're gonna die. Bring evacuations. The end of Babylon 4 is gonna happen soon." And they're like, "Okay, I guess we'll bring evac." but we're going first. And they come down and they talk to everybody, and then they meet this weird dude. This is where I immediately lost interest in this episode. This character is Zathras, who I bet we're going to see again.
Well, before we get to Zathras, we learn what is happening on Babylon 4, because Sinclair has like a flashback to some moment where Garibaldi has a huge machine gun and is shooting people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's like the war or something, probably. The Earth-Minbari War. And then he gets back into the present. It's like, what was that? What's going on? Then they meet the commander of Babylon 4, and he's like, yeah, so it's true. Everyone on this station has been unstuck in time. And he's just not a good actor.
Yeah.
This guy. It's really... it just doesn't work for me.
You know what it is, though? Like, all these weird side characters that were like, why is this actor so bad? Like, when we were talking about the Psycorp person from last week. It just highlights how good the main cast is. Also,
right.
That you're like, oh, where'd they get this like bargain bin? Like, because this guy can technically work as like a parallel to Sinclair. Like, what does this captain look like on a sinking ship? On like literally a sinking ship, sinking through time and space. How do they react?
Yeah,
and he just plays it very quiet. He's very just like not exciting to watch. Not a lot to him.
Yeah, he's just kind of like distressed.
Exactly.
But there isn't really any flavor to it.
Yeah, I ended up liking Zathras' performance more, but Zathras falls into the Star Trek.
No. Nope.
No, you didn't like Zathras?
Wrong answer. Nothing about Zathras did I like, my friend.
Well, yeah, Zathras falls into the annoying sci-fi trope of the weird foreign alien who does weird magical stuff that we don't get explained until way later.
Yeah.
Zathras is just a nonsense character, who I'm trying not to read about because I know he does come back. Not very regularly, but in ways. And he's basically it's complicated for a while. It's confusing because this is a mystery they're trying to solve on the ship. And Zathras gets all excited when he sees Sinclair. He recognizes him, which is super weird.
Yeah.
At this point, you're like, something fucky is going on.
Right.
Which I'm constantly saying. Then I think I'm trying to remember how we get to the part where the guy in the spacesuit comes out of nowhere. I think it just happens.
Yeah, he just kind of fades in randomly.
And Zathras is like, whoa, the one is here, sick. And they're like, wait, Neo from the Matrix? And then I'm like, wait, that movie didn't come out yet. Sinclair's like, should I touch him? And Zathras is like, dude, hell yeah, definitely touch the one. And everyone else is like, that's stupid, Sinclair, what? And then he already does, and he gets electrocuted, and he's scared because he can't touch his future self. Spoilers. Zathras gets all scared. He gets recaptured by the Babylon 4 crew, and then when they're interrogating him, Garibaldi is now trying to sort of order the mob trying to get off of Babylon 4.
Mm-hmm.
He has this really dumb method of being like, all right, guys, 5 at a time. 1, 2, 3, and 7 people have already gone out. He's like, 4, sure, 5. All right, cool, bye. And then they leave for 10 seconds. He's like, all right, another 5. Hell yeah, bring it on. It's like, that's not how evacuations work, but okay. Limiting it is how you do that, but it's just no one's going to listen to you. That's not how this works.
Right.
So he's a mess. And then after almost everybody is off, another time flash happens. We're just getting a lot of visions of the future and visions of the past.
Yeah, Garibaldi gets a cut to when he's leaving, what's her face? Tina? That's not her name, but it seems like it should be.
Lise.
What's her name?
Lise Hampton.
Lise. Oh, it's a nice name.
Yeah.
Lise.
She's like, if you leave, I'm never gonna see you again. He's like, I'm sad again. I'm sad all over again. No.
It was sort of a cartoonish portrayal of how a breakup works.
Yeah.
Because she was like, if you go to Babylon 5, it's over. You've only met the Sinclair guy twice. I don't know. It's there's got to be a little more going on there. I guess because she doesn't want him to go back to being a soldier or something.
Yeah,
Is that what I was supposed to get from
Or
her?
maybe she doesn't support the cause of Babylon 5, so she's like, I'm not going to be part of this. If you're going to join this, then I'm out of here. it's just one of those things that's like reminding us that Lisa's going to be a factor on the show for a while.
Right.
Like that scene in isolation is just like it's the sad part about it is that Garibaldi is re-experiencing one of the saddest moments of his life. That's the part where you're like, oh, that sucks. Honestly, man, while I do find, and I understand you said at the beginning you thought it was cheesy, but like the vibe of this episode is fun, but the moment to moment, like reading the plot, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like Zathras is talking about the one who is the person that is like stabilizing the time jumps so that they don't die. And the reason Zathras and his alien friends got onto Babylon 4 was they planned to steal it, to use Babylon 4 as part of a weapon in their like upcoming evil alien war.
Yeah, to save the galaxy or something.
Yeah, some nonsense like that.
But he's like from the far future, which in his time is like 4463 or whatever he says.
Right, exactly.
And they're like, what is that in Earth time?
Give me that in English, motherfucker. Like you just even in the future, people still don't like are like in English, please.
Yeah, basically.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff where it's just like I'm the Great War and all this stuff, and they don't really explain any of it. It doesn't seem like it even necessarily is going to be something we'll get.
Right.
But the big question for me is, they don't necessarily believe all of this because they're like maybe he's just stealing the ship because he's a criminal. And then in the last time jump, the mysterious figure known as the One takes off his helmet, and who is it? It's like really bad old Sinclair makeup.
Yeah.
This is definitely our episode thumbnail. Just this like gray-haired.
For sure.
Michael, what's the actor who plays Sinclair? I'm so sorry, Michael O'Hare. Gray-haired Michael O'Hare, just being like, he doesn't say anything. He's just, you know what it is? He does say something. There's like a scene where he's talking, and then there's a woman who puts her hand on his shoulder.
Yeah, it's Delenn.
But it's a. I'm looking at it. It's a white hand. Maybe I guess Delenn has kind of white hands. It's definitely her voice.
It's her voice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it must be Delenn. And she says like, "I know it's time. We have to go. They're waiting for us." Which like, I'm sure this is fascinating to me. This is all like cool mystery stuff that we're gonna understand, and it's gonna be great. But it doesn't. I don't get it right now. Maybe when we go back and watch it again after we understand this stuff, it'll be like, whoa, they were seeing all these cool things. But to me, using like the old man version of yourself in your sci-fi show just makes me think of 2001: A Space Odyssey and little else. And in that movie, it's used really. I mean, it's a lot more artistic. It's not like trying to explain like this person was a time traveler. It's just like
right.
You're seeing more of your entire spectrum of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But where I feel like where our enjoyment of this episode the most comes from is the Delenn B plot.
Yes, sir. I'm realizing that Delenn is my favorite character.
Yeah, you've solidified this week.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
She's really fascinating.
She's so good, and the actor is so. I don't know, like her accent is, I don't even know if that's her real accent or if she's doing that for Delenn, but either way, it's so specific and controlled, and just everything that she does is like poised, but there's something that she's communicating, like something deeply, passionately emotional in every line, even when it's like just the most straightforward,
right, seemingly
mundane thing. Just awesome.
She can deliver to me like the most boring line, and I'm just like riveted by it because of the tenor, like the cadence of her voice. She's got a beautiful way of speaking,
and the way she holds herself, and I don't know, it's all really, really precise.
Yeah, Mira Furlan, she's Croatian, so it's possible that some of that is just from her accent, but she does a lot of different accent work on TV. It's not only the way she talks and how she carries herself, though. It's the stuff she says in this episode, because basically, this is the moment where our viewing of this show in air order over chronological kind of falls apart a bit, because in this episode, she is told early on she's summoned by the Grey Council, by someone else who says, hey, you have to go, and she just takes a jump gate and hops over to the Grey Council ship, which is like a huge, gross, like a war cruiser. It's called like a Chatzylon class war cruiser, and it's got these like big forked prongs on the top and the bottom of it. And she goes on and she hangs out with the Grey Council, which I found out is funny because they're called the Grey Council because when they all stand, they're in each other's gray space. They're in their shadows. Like that's why they all stand in that little pattern so that everybody is in someone else's shadow. Nobody is like focused.
Oh.
That's the intent of that little pose, and I guess that's also why they're called the Grey Council. In the gray or something. Basically, they're having this whole meeting about like, oh, like a lot's going on in Minbar right now. Like we need to figure out what we want to do and who's going to rule us and if we're going to have a leader at all or if that's worth it. And it doesn't seem like anyone's better for this job than you, Delenn. I think we want you to be our leader. And she's like, but here's the thing, guys. Being the leader of the Grey Council means like being in this, like on this ship.
Room, this like empty room.
Yeah, this sad, empty room forever and just like making decisions. That sounds so like not only is it her rejecting the position, but it's her being like, I have such a good position right now. I love the research I'm doing on the humans. Because they're like, she says like the reason I'm on Babylon 5 is to study the humans and understand certain things about them and not understand all the alien races on there. I don't mean to say just humans.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, did you get any data? Like they all like fuck each other over and they like start wars and they regret it and then they have like the same arc over and over and over again for thousands of years. And she's like, no, guys. Humans are very complicated and cool.
That's what's cool about them.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing in the world is that they keep doing that. And then they keep starting over. Isn't that great? They have hope. They have potential. They can self-sacrifice, like we talk about all the sentient life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically her defending humans to her people. It's really like emotional stuff. And it works again because, like you said, her performance is
kind
great.
of like on the nose JMS talking to the audience about what's great about humanity, but I'm into it.
Yeah, there's so many good quotes from you, and I definitely like overall. I'm starting to enjoy the JMS like eulogizing to us about like, oh, you guys like humans are awesome, and herd them and they come back stronger. And then the best line, which is their only weakness is to not acknowledge their greatness. Like, give it up for humanity. Like we could use because we can kind of use that talk sometimes. Like, yeah, the world is messed up right now, and pretty much entirely it's because of humans. Yeah, but like, it's nice to remember every once in a while that like maybe somebody out there is looking out for us, and is like at least pleasantly surprised with how we're carrying ourselves. Because we're certainly not. We're just like, oh, we're getting worse. Like it feels often like we're just objectively getting worse. But to have an alien on this TV show be like, no, guys, you need to understand that like humans are getting to a good point. They're getting there. It's growing pains and it sucks and like they have problems, but like that's the beauty of it. And I don't know. I just find something very hopeful about the way that he writes like characters talking to the audience about like, no, guys, we're fine.
It's certainly much better than when we watch the Newsroom, and the Newsroom would try to do that.
Right.
And not do it
and often,
in a good way at all.
Often just come out on the side of like, yeah, we're all kind of bad anyways. Like we try to be good, but like,
right.
We're doing the news. Like this acceptance that like things are bad. That's been a common thing in a lot of the shows that we watch.
Right.
I think optimism is just a thing you don't get enough in television now. So all this stuff is very optimistic, and the Great Council is basically like, well, all right, shit. Like, if you're not going to be the leader, then I guess we won't have a leader for a while. And like,
yeah, it also it speaks to this theme that we've seen with Londo, where it seems like a lot of the main characters in the show are wrestling with the fact that they're kind of imprisoned by like the powers that they've been given.
Yeah,
like Londo is this kind of well-respected ambassador, and he hates it. And Delenn would hate being the leader of like the highest council of her society. And part of Sinclair, I think, resents being under the thumb of like Earth Force. I don't know. There's something.
Yeah. It's this recurring theme of like the position you're in is not the thing that you want to be doing. It's just the place you find yourself in.
Right.
And some of us like struggle to get out of that. So Delenn is basically getting out, and the Minbari assure her that like there's gonna be a power vacuum if you get out of this, and we're gonna have more problems, not fewer problems.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you can never come back, which is like big, I guess. As she's leaving, one of the men, I guess, one of the other Great Council people hands her an object. It looks like a triangle, sort of like 3D object, and she's like, "No, I can't." And then she's like, "Well, if the prophecies I have are correct about the humans, then we're probably gonna have to use this soon."
Mm.
And it's the Triluminary, which I think Dan had mentioned in an email as like a thing that she gets that is cool.
Right.
As I understand it, this Triluminary is the thing that she used in, was it Legacies, I think? When she stopped time to steal the ashes of the Minbari guy.
Right. Yeah.
So we're officially falling out of continuity a little bit.
Got it.
So there's that, but what's the continuity thing that more bums me out is like, we complimented the end of that episode for how cool it was when she like talks off the other Minbari and says like, "I'm in the Great Council, goddammit, and I'll tell them and I'll ruin you and I can destroy you in an instant. You better leave and never come back."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay," and she wasn't.
Right, which is even cooler.
It's way cooler.
Yeah.
That she's like and it was heartbreaking for her to leave because this was a position that she cherished and it's the reason she is where she is. But like, she's out of it.
Well, it's not for sure that she's out of it though, right? Isn't she kind of? She thinks she's out, but they aren't willing to say that yet, or something.
I think that is what it is. Yeah, I think they're like, we'll talk about it. We'll continue to stand in this room for hours on end,
right,
and come up with a decision. But you're like 90% out of the way. She doesn't want the position anymore. So for her to assert that position is fascinating.
Well, I think she wants to be on the council. She just doesn't want to be the leader.
The leader, right? You have the title and have the position, but not the like part where you have to live there and give up your other tasks.
Yeah, because
Modern Humans is fun. I agree. And then just that again, at 7 endings, it wouldn't be Babylon 5 without 5 endings. Ivanova tells Sinclair she's upset that she missed the excitement, and he's like,
"Oh, I missed the episode."
Where's Jakar? Every week I'm like, where's...
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while.
Where's Dr. Franklin? Okay, Dr. Franklin,
We've seen Dr. Franklin. He was in the first half
with
of today.
Yep. And the Dr. Franklin thing I've accepted because like he's the doctor. He's not going to be in Adventures. I get it. But Jakar's one of the ambassadors. Give me Jakar.
Episodes of Babylon 5 that have Jakar.
That's a dicey Google search you're making, my friend.
Well, I'm not going to look at what they're about.
Okay.
Also, it's actually harder to search that than you would think.
Yeah. You would have to like go to the Jakar page on the like wiki and then just see which episodes he's featured in. That's probably the way to do it.
Yep, that's what I'm doing for you.
Delicious. So yeah, I love the cast of the show and love these good Dylan moments. But she says, Ivanova's upset that she missed the whole episode, and Sinclair's like, "Oh, I didn't know the ship was going to come back, but if it does, then she's like, I'm going and Garibaldi is staying here the next time Babylon 4 is nearby. So like, it's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we're confirming is it's super definitely we're going to see Babylon 4 again.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? So
I'm excited. I think there's potential in like we just have another ship that's like constantly time traveling through its worst day of all time over and over again, and sometimes it's in our dimension. That's weird and cool in a way that I dig.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find any information
about Jakar?
Yeah,
he'll be in a couple before the end of the season.
Well, there's only 2 more in the season, so.
Well, you know what, buddy?
What, buddy?
He's in.
Is he in the Quality of Mercy or is he in Chrysalis?
He's in Chrysalis.
Delicious.
He's in Chrysalis, yep.
Delicious.
He hasn't been in an episode since Signs and Portents.
Shit, you're right.
Yeah, this whole back half of the season he hasn't been in it.
Meh. I miss him. I get it. Like people are before people email in like, well, it's because of budgets and because of casting issues, and like I know, I just want it.
And also, like he's not always
pertinent to the plot.
He has a lot of plot gravity.
True.
Which can be distracting.
That's a good point. I'm looking at previews of the next episodes, and I'm really curious what happens in them. Can you read me what happens in that next last 2 episodes of season 1 of Babylon 5?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Next week, we're finishing up season 1 of Babylon 5.
Oh.
This first episode we're watching is season 1, episode 21, The Quality of Mercy. A doctor who uses an alien device to cure any ailment meets Dr. Franklin. Hey, there you go.
Oh, bring it.
Londo and Lanier go out for a night on the town.
That's the greatest plot I've ever heard. Are you kidding me? Get out of here.
Sir.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
It took me a second to remember which one Lanier was, and once I did, it was even better.
The best one. Yeah, not Veer. Veer would never go out on the town. He's got work to do.
No. That's boring. But Lanier.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes. Also, go out on the town. It's Babylon 5. Like, go out on the Zocalo? What town?
Right.
What's the last one? What's the finale?
The finale is season 1, episode 22, Chrysalis. Garibaldi discovers a plot to assassinate the Earth president and is shot.
Oops.
Sinclair, who asks Catherine to marry him, learns about the hole in his mind from Delenn before she enters a chrysalis state. Oh
boy. Oh jeez.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, lot gonna happen there.
I'm gonna get a dun. Hearing weird phrases in other languages is often fun.
I tried to say lot going on and lot gonna happen at the same time.
Lotta gonna happen.
Yeah, and I was like, what am I doing?
What's happening?
I don't know.
I love this. So, should we tell people we're probably going to try and watch these episodes together?
No, don't tell them.
Shh, delete that. Cut that out. Beep.
No. Yes, we are. Alan's coming to visit me.
Yay, visit. Smoochums. Cool. So with that, that brings us to the end of our show. It's time for the plug section. If you would like to contact us at the Chatzylon 5 studios in sunny De La Hoya, Oscar, you can do so by tweeting at Chats. I can't always think of a new city every time I do that joke. Sometimes I think of the first name that comes to my head. In sunny Goku. At Chatspot on Twitter, chatspot@gmail.com, 5 stars on iTunes. Pretty please.
Okay.
And if you don't want to do that and you want to just throw some money at it to make us shut up, you can do so by going to patreon.com/chatspod, where at $2 a month you can get commentary chats, where every month we watch a movie and you can watch it with us. And then at $5 a month, every 2 weeks, you get us talking about some shit on Chats Nights. I'd like to shout out all of our patrons right now. We have, thanks to new patron Jonathan, thank you. New regular patron Kat, friend of the show Kat, awesome person. Relatively new patron Marcus, who we read their email earlier. We have Fendon, longtime buddy, and Tom HK, our first patron.
Yay.
You're all excellent people. We love you.
Wonderful team.
Get on the crew. Become a Chatsy. Patreon.com/Chatspod. Do it up. Magellan, what is your... Well, actually, I'm going to do...
Should we tell people if they're on the fence about becoming a Chatsy and it's like, well, do I donate for the $2 or the $5? Should we tell them what movie we're going to be watching next month, just so they can wet their whistle?
Yeah, well, we can kind of give them a breakdown of what we've been doing too. So
yeah. Break it down.
Break it down now. So the latest commentary chats was us watching Face Off, which was a big fun, big money, big fun.
Oh yes.
And for the month of December, we are watching Shaolin Soccer.
Oh boy!
I'm sure that's going to be a good time. And then for Chats Nights, rather, honestly, it's a grab bag. You know, sometimes we watch YouTube videos, other times we watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, or talk about our lives,
or talk about
or our deep emotions, or anything. I mean, if you've got an idea of something you want us to discuss, you're paying for it.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. I'm always like,
we'll
if people don't want to hear us occasionally talk over YouTube videos, then like tell us, and then we won't. But you have to tell us. Because it's too much fun. Yeah, and the latest one we talked about getting old because it was your birthday recently, and then talked about the winter and all the good stuff. So check that stuff out. For my Chatsum this week.
Yeah, what you got?
Oh, I remember what it was. I'm gonna recommend a YouTube video series.
Okay.
So I used to be a really big fan of the YouTube channel Game Grumps. They're like two guys do a YouTube show where they talk over video games. because I didn't have a lot of friends in college. So I was like, I'm gonna have internet friends instead. And
Alan does this thing where he like deeply loves something for a while,
yeah,
and then kind of out of nowhere, he begins to deeply detest it.
it's not that I deeply detest Kingdom Hearts. It's that it's like, there are things you love when you're like 16, 17, and you're like, and you get older and you're like, yeah, I get
know.
why I liked that, but it's like I've grown out of it. I've literally grown out of it.
I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy.
I love it. I appreciate the hard time.
Yeah.
So they do this. They've been doing this YouTube channel for like 6 years now. But recently, in 2017, they started doing a live action series called the 10-Minute Power Hour, where every Monday they put up an episode where they just do activities, in front of a camera on a table, and they do stuff like do each other's makeup or like play with old board games, or one time they went through like a costume shop for Halloween and just like tried on costumes. And it's really like, I had a pretty like a kind of a rough week this week, and I just watched every episode of the Power Hour, just to make myself feel good, and it really works. Like, it really, if you just want to, like, these guys are very funny. They're funny in ways that we can't be just because of the format and because they're like a lot more experienced than we are. But
Sure.
If you like our style and you want a sort of like more ridiculous, less structured version, the 10-Minute Power Hour is just it'll make you feel good. It'll warm your cockles a little bit.
Nice.
Like they do. I'm looking through all of these. They like made puppets. They made hand puppets together. They make balloon animals. They did one where they did like an escape room. Like, they're doing all sorts of weird stuff, and some of them have like weird meta bits where it's like their editor is like getting like attacked outside of the studio while they're doing a bit. Like, it's strange. It's a fun little journey to go down. So check that out. 10-Minute Power Hour.
Great.
What about you, Mister?
Well, I have 4 Chatsums. Do you want all of them?
I do.
You sure?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I do.
All right. Hey, my first is that I realize that now there's some Jeopardy on Netflix.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so if you like Jeopardy, they've got a Tournament of Champions up there and a Battle of the Decades up there. I'd say go for it, man. Check it out. It's fun stuff. And you really get a sense for how Alex Trebek is kind of sexist and kind of a jerk. And
You're right.
Also, like, the Jeopardy audience, like the live audience, is obviously very old and milquetoast because they laugh only at the like lamest things.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Of course.
And also, Jeopardy's fun, and I say the answers out loud to myself when I'm alone.
Everyone does. That's valid.
Yeah.
Valid.
Yesterday, I went and saw a live show of a podcast that I loved for a long time, and I still love, but they're very sporadic with their releases. Super Ego, which is sort of, they improvise characters that they've devised, and then they edit it and splice it together. And it's very good. If you've never listened to Super Ego, I highly recommend it. It is a gut buster. I laughed so hard at this show. It's the hardest I laughed. Yesterday was the hardest I've laughed in like months.
Wow.
Probably. Yeah, and it's just because they set out the premises and you know what they are and you know who the characters are, but the guys in it just have such a talent for like speaking before they have fully decided what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And being totally fearless in what they're saying. And their humor just really lines up with mine, or maybe my humor was kind of like shaped by listening to them. It's probably more accurate. There was a part where this one guy, Matt Gorley, Paul F. Tompkins is a part of it now, and he's great. But my favorite of them is this guy, Matt Gorley. And he was saying something in character about like showing that the character that he is like kind of pathetic and sad.
Yeah.
And he's like, and my home is a river. And it's like, what? That's a weird line. And then minutes later, he's rambling and he's like, yeah, and maybe one day you find out that your river home dried up and there's a dry gulch and now you can't even catch a bath. And I laughed my ass off.
I'm sure that's even like 10 times funnier with the like.
Oh, it's
live.
so yeah.
Oh boy.
It was amazing. I've been reading some books lately.
Ooh.
I recommended a book last time. I'll recommend you another book, folks. Anne Carson is like probably one of my favorite authors ever. She's very experimental. Everything she does is so different from everything else. And one of her better known books I'd started in college, but I had never finished it. It's called Autobiography of Red, and it's sort of like a long poem / novel / reinterpretation of a Greek myth / coming of age story. It's kind of hard to describe it, but once you're reading it, it makes total sense. And if you're looking for something you can read in a couple days that'll take your mind in totally new directions, I'd recommend it. And then my fourth thing is not a piece of media. It is an experience that I recommend you have in your life, which is at IKEA, I bought a carafe.
Oh, word.
And now I have a carafe full of water in my refrigerator. And so I always have cold water to drink, like very cold water.
So which part do you recommend? Going to IKEA, getting a carafe, or drinking water?
Getting a carafe so that drinking water feels like a luxury experience, and you just want to do it all the time.
Okay, I like that.
Seriously, it's like a couple bucks or whatever to get one of these little stopper bottle thingies.
Yeah.
And then every cup of water, it's
Like,
from
ooh.
it's from like the mountain springs, and it's perfect temperature.
Right.
It's great.
That's very cool. I'm into that. Cool. Well, definitely check those things out. We give you a plethora of things to enjoy this week, and
I gave you some options, so
for
pick
sure.
something.
And I gave you like 12 hours of YouTube content. So if you want to just fall down holes, you can fall down holes. And thank you so very much for listening to this episode of Chatzylon 5. Peace.